as service providers, one of the biggest time suck that we have is client communication and client management in general. And granted, this is part of the job, so we can't really complain. And I truly think AI is here with the best solution here. A lot of time you hear people telling you to just hire someone, an assistant, to go through your inbox and deal with this client communication so that you don't have to be part of the process and you can do something else. But if you think about it, it's really just adding an extra layer between you and the client, and it's not really what they paid for. Like a lot of time, if they hire you, they expect to have direct access to you, your brain, and that's a lot of time just frustrating people to just hire an assistant to communicate with them and not having access to you directly. And so the better solution is going to be to build a second brain of yours using AI, and that's a way for clients to get direct access to you indirectly, and that's what I'm going to show you how to build today. And so the easiest way to build that second brain is going to be with Custom GPT. Now, you may have heard of Custom GPT before, but I'm going to show you very specifically how to use this to be your 24/7 client assistant, client customer support, and just end that frustration that they have with this extra layer in your inbox and having to wait for you to reply after a few days, and that whole process that we all know very well. All right, so let's jump into ChatGPT then. This is very basics, how to find your custom GPT. Just go to Explore GPTs and create at the top here, and then you'll get into this configuration screen, which I'm going to walk you through. And if you go to the Configure tab, just fill out the first sort of basic settings, the name of it, so that can be just the X client name. And then the description, I'm here to answer your question about Joey's program. So just for the sake of example, I'm going to pretend that I'm a career coach helping you to find your dream job. So that's going to be sort of the angle that I take here as I set up this custom GPT, just to show you how it works and how a specific use case would look like. So you can pick a picture if you want. You can just use DALL-E. It doesn't really matter. This is just for the look of it. But just know that when your client's going to search and look at the custom GPT that you're going to send to them, they're going to see that information. Just make sure that it's client facing. There we go. Not the best picture, but I guess it will be fine for just this example. Okay, so the first really important field to fill out is going to be the instructions. And that's going to be sort of the system prompt. And what that means is that it's going to be sort of the overall prompt and guidelines that you give the custom GPT on how to answer the client's questions. So you're going to want to give it some goals, some instructions, some context, some examples, anything you can to make it better for the custom GPT to be able to answer the questions the client may have. Now, this is not the point where you actually give it all of the knowledge from your program, for example. So all of the data that it has to parse in order to find the answer. But this is more of the package around the answer it's going to give to the client. So again, the goal, what it's here for, the examples and context for answering the question of the client. So again, let me give you a very specific example. Let's say that, again, I'm a career coach helping people find a dream job. Okay, so before we get into it, here is an example of a very bad prompt. So if you just tell the AI, help me find my dream job, and respond to all the questions that I have in my search. Again, this is from the angle of the client because the client is going to be prompting the custom GPT. So that's why this is in the first person, because it's going to come from the client. This is obviously a very bad prompt. It doesn't give the model much context. It doesn't give it a goal. It doesn't give it examples. It's just not going to be very good, and the answers are going to be pretty poor. And so instead, here is a template that you can use, and I'm going to walk you through it here, but this is going to be the different sections that we want to have in this system prompt. Okay, so the first one is going to be the goal of the custom GPT. Obviously, the goal is going to be to answer questions, but we want to be a bit more specific here. So I'm starting right away trying to limit the hallucination that the model can have. So I'm asking you to be very strict and only get the information that I'm going to upload in the knowledge. That's something that I'm going to show you next. But that way, it's not going to try to, well, it might still do it, but it's going to limit the amount of time where the model is just giving you a made up answer. So that first one is pretty straightforward, pretty clear. Again, just how to get the information, the very clear goal, which is again to give a very helpful response to my coaching program around finding your career. The response style is going to be, again, just the sort of way we want it to answer. So now that we give it the goal, the what to do, then we give it the how to do it in which style. And again, this can be whatever you want it to be. I'm going to keep it pretty simple here, but it needs to be helpful, details, professional but friendly, just conversational. We want the clients to have an actual conversation, go back and forth, ask for more clarity, for explanations. That's going to be a better way to go about it. Avoid the jargon, or just give a clear definitions for each of the, maybe more technical words that the answer is going to provide. Break down into simple ideas. Again, these are pretty standard. I may go overboard here actually, but it's good to have them in there just in case. You can adapt this to you and your clients and how you typically talk to them. Again, what we want to reproduce here is the way that you would answer and talk to your clients. The next section is going to be to emphasize that I don't want the AI to hallucinate, that I don't want it to make up answers. And so again, an important note, do not invent information. If you can't find the information, that I put it in the knowledge documents. I'm going to come back to that in a bit. Just say it and avoid speculations. Again, just an extra layer to make sure that the AI understands that do not make up answers and just invent a bunch of stuff. Okay, and the last section is going to be probably one of the most important ones. So this is the additional context that the model is going to need in order to formulate an answer. Now, it's going to have access to the knowledge documents, but we do want to give it context to why would someone be there in the first place, and that's what we're going to do here. So for context, you will be talking to my clients. I'm a career coach helping people find their dream job. I've been doing it for 10 years. People appreciate my patience when asking questions. They like how I break it down. It's sort of another version of the response style, but here we give it more context so that it knows what we're talking about here. And things like your frameworks, your specific methods, your specific sort of secret sauce that is in your program or in your service or in your coaching program, your unique approach. And so that it knows exactly how to go from the documents that you're going to upload in a second to the answer and the ultimate goal, which is to answer the client's questions. So this is sort of the translation from the raw data, raw content into the answer that it's going to give. And that's what the additional context is for. Okay, so again, this is just a template. Make sure that you adapt it and that it makes sense for you and your program, but it's always better to go a bit overboard here. So don't worry if yours is a bit long and even longer than this. Okay, so next up is not super important, but it's the conversation starters. So that's going to be the first thing that the AI says before the client can even ask a question. So it doesn't have to be very complicated. Just something like, I am Joey's assistant. How can I help you today? You don't have to complicate it. That's going to be good enough. Okay, so the second very important part to configure here is going to be the knowledge. So these are going to be the documents that you upload, sort of the raw content from your program, just anything the model is going to need to be able to give the clients those answers that they're looking for. So here you're going to want to strike a balance between giving it too much information and it doesn't know where to look anymore, and not giving it enough that it doesn't have what it takes to answer the client's question. So let me give you some examples of what you can put in this knowledge bank and what you should upload. You can upload things like your client's onboarding questionnaire or anything that you give them as part of your intake. You should probably upload anything about your methodology, your content, your program, sort of the raw materials that you create for people. Make sure that it's text-based so that the AI can actually understand what it is. You can upload a script of the kickoff call that you have with this particular client. Again, remember that this is a custom GPT for one particular client, and that's going to be the few parts that we adapt depending on the client. And again, anything that could help the AI to respond just like you would as your second brain and the content that it will need to answer the client's question. So anything you can think of. Again, I would say it's okay here to go to about 10 documents that the AI will need to answer the questions. Make sure that you don't upload anything that you wouldn't want the client to see because, again, the AI is going to need this stuff to respond to the client. So if there's content in your material that the client shouldn't really know about, make sure you don't put that in there because it will cite it and it will use it to tell the clients what they need to know. And that's really the gist of it when it comes to the configuration. Now, once you've done that, you can leave this all checked out. It's all perfectly fine, probably. Go ahead and create the GPT. Now, you probably want to make this anyone with a link. That's going to be your client, and you're good to go. And your custom GPT is now ready. And what you're going to get is a link here that you're going to be able to share with the client, and you can go ahead and view your GPT. And it appears right here. From here, we can enter the last phase of this configuration of your custom GPT, which is the testing and refining phase. And you don't want to keep that phase because that's really what's going to make the output, the answers that the model gives the clients a lot better than just the default thing that we set up here. And so it's just a good old test and refine. So go ahead, pretend that you're a new client, start asking questions to the model and the custom GPT really see the answers, think about anything else that it could have done better, and just make sure that you add that to the instructions if it was just the way that it replied or the context that it didn't give, or if it was just generally lacking content, just make sure that you uploaded that to the knowledge base. Do that a few times, and that should be good enough to give you a pretty good output that you can start and sending over to the client. So for each of the clients, probably what you want to change with the new custom GPT that you make for that client is going to be the name, a bit of the system prompt depending on the context, but not too much, and probably the knowledge bank and files that you upload here. But that's really pretty much it. It's good to go. When you have done that first setup and you're happy with it, it's pretty easy to replicate to the next client. That's pretty much the gist of the setup. Now think about the value that this gives to the clients. Now they have access to a second brain of yours. It's not going to be as good as you, but if they have an answer at 2 a.m. and you're not online, that's something for them to go to and get an answer straight away for some of the more repetitive, easy stuff that you would have answered via email a few hours later. So it's really a win-win situation. It's not really meant to replace you. It's meant to add more value to your service and your program without much work. I mean, we've done this in about 10 minutes. So it's just a really simple way to use AI at something that does pretty well and that can save you a bunch of time and again, add more value to your clients. But if you also want to use AI in different part of your business, such as creating your assets and your images, I put together a video of use cases specifically for coaches and service providers on how to use AI image generation in your business and actually make it work for you. So you can go ahead and watch this, or if you just want to keep updated on the AI automations and things that you can implement in your service business, then go ahead and subscribe to my free newsletter. That's going to be in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.